Good day. My name is Professor Anthony Riccio. I am the founder of the Financial Advisors Group, a money management firm, and CEO of Riccio Online Income Tax Advisors. Grab a pen. We're going to talk about income tax planning for freelancers. So again, grab a pen and a piece of paper. You'll see I got mine too, but these are notes for you. So, we're going to talk about income tax planning for freelancers. When we talk about income tax planning for freelancers, what is the real goal? Well, believe it or not, there are several different types of goals, right? Looking at income taxes and being a freelancer. But I'm going to concentrate more on the freelancer part and then, of course, talk about taxes in between. So what is the goal? Well, in reality, the goal is just like pretty much anything else, right? We want to pay as little taxes as possible, hoping we will receive that difference either in a tax refund or in our pocket. But ladies and gentlemen, that definition applies to the W-2 world, right? It doesn't apply to freelancers, right? How do you pay taxes? Let's talk about some basics, right? Let's talk about how you pay self-employed taxes. And let's also talk about the forms that you need for those taxes. So, when we talk about taxes that we have to pay as freelancers, well, in one sense, it's really no different than in the W-2 world, right? In the W-2 world, you have to pay federal taxes. You have to pay state, maybe city taxes. And then, of course, you have to pay Medicare taxes and Social Security taxes, right? And in the W-2 world, if you add all that up, depending on your level of income, that could put you in a totality of a 30 to 40%, closer to 40% income tax bracket, right? Yeah, terrible, terrible. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In the self-employed world, it's no different. We're responsible to have to pay those taxes, not gross, net. You'll understand that in a few moments. But we still have to pay our Social Security taxes, and we still have to pay our Medicare taxes. And the combined rate of those taxes is about 15.3%. And the forms we use to calculate that for both our income tax return, as for other reasons, is something called the Schedule SE form. And then, of course, we want to be sure with a Schedule C form, this captures your income and your deductions. Very important. I'll bet that's why you're here, right? So, we know in the freelancer world, there are two income tax forms that we need besides our 1040. Our Schedule C to capture our self-employed income and our self-employed expenses. And then, of course, Schedule SE to figure out our Social Security and Medicare tax. And in the freelance world, we don't call it Social Security and Medicare. We do call it, we do call it self-employment tax. But understand, this is not your federal taxes, right? These are taxes that benefit you directly, right? What goes to the federal government and the state government, I got no comment. Except to tell you this, and forgive me as I cruise through my notes for a minute, because I'm trying to take a 1 hour, 2 hour lecture and cover it within the next 10 minutes. So make sure you got your pen handy. So how do you pay your federal and your federal taxes, and as well as your city and state taxes? Well, that's called paying your taxes quarterly, which most freelancers do. 4 times a year, you would submit a payment for your federal and state quarterly taxes. You would take that bill, divided by 4, send them a payment every quarter. So that way, when you do your freelance taxes, you already know you owe zip, right, as far as federal, city, and state taxes. But also remember, your federal, city, and state taxes, just like your Medicare and Social Security tax, is based not on your gross income like it is in the W-2 world. It's based on your net income, right? What is net? Well, like I said with the Schedule C form, it takes your income, subtracted by all the deductions you have. So let's say, for sake of argument, you made $1,000. I'm keeping the numbers real simple. You made $1,000 of income. You added up all of your self-employed deductions. It came out to $900. You made a profit of $100. Congratulations. You don't pay taxes on $1,000. You pay taxes on $100. So, of course, that's a major tax benefit when we look at tax planning for freelancers. Now, if you notice, I've left one area out. That area is, what are my self-employed deductions? Ladies and gentlemen, there are technically 25, and no, I'm not going to go over every single one of them because that will turn this into a 2-hour lecture. But grab a pen because I'm going to give you some real important tips. So when we talk about self-employed deductions, remember, these deductions are what we call ordinary and necessary. So when we talk about things that are ordinary or necessary, if you have a home office, you would be entitled to a home office deduction. If you pay utilities in your self-employed practice, whether it's out in the street or in your home, you would have utility expenses. Utility expenses like gas and electric, utility expenses like internet and telephone. Insurance. When I talk about insurance, maybe home insurance for the home office, right? Maybe health insurance because you're allowed to deduct self-employed health insurance. Supplies and equipment, ladies and gentlemen. I can spend a half hour on that, but let me keep it simple. I hope you understand the analogy. I'm banging on my desk. My desk is equipment. I open up the desk. I see supplies in there. I see pens, I see paper, I see a whole bunch of things. But both equipment and supplies are tax deductible. I mentioned health insurance. Professional services. I am an income tax and financial advisor. So whether you need a tax or financial advisor, or a lawyer, or any professional services are also tax deductible. Advertising and marketing. Right? I'm making this video. Is that marketing? Is that advertising? That's a good question, right? I know the answer. You don't. But if you call me, which we'll talk about in a minute, I might help you with that answer. Continuing education. If you're going to school to further your freelance work, well, all of your educational expenses are tax deductible. Your retirement contributions. No, not your retirement contributions at work. No. But as a freelancer, you're allowed to create your own self-employed retirement plan, which would work the same exact way as on your job. You would put money in and it would be geared towards retirement. But you get one special little extra zipper with that. And that is any money you put in is now a tax deduction. It is pre-taxed on your job, and that's wonderful, but I'm sure you'd rather have it as a tax deduction. Not last item, but another item. Do you pay rent? Do you have a mortgage? If that's where your practice is, if that's where you're freelancing, that is also tax deductible. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, there are technically 25 areas that you should know and understand. I haven't covered all 25, but I think I've given you a pretty good idea of why you should learn the whole 25. So, let's talk about one other area before we call this a night. Let's talk about financial management. As a freelancer, you have to perform strict financial management on yourself. So, first thing, you need to keep your money separate. You need to keep your self-employed money separate than your personal money. Whether it's a bank account or whatever mechanisms that you use, they have to be declared separately. Number 2, keep all receipts. Keep all receipts. Did you hear me? Keep all receipts. Because I guarantee you, if the IRS has a question, it won't be next week. It'll be 3-4 years from now. And you better have that material to justify any inquiries that might go on. Last area in financial management, business structure. You know, when I mention business structure, I mean think of it as an umbrella on your practice. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you a legal sole proprietor? Are you a legal partnership? Are you a legal S-corp? Do you understand any of those verifications and how it can make your business better or worse depending on which business structure that you're in? So, ladies and gentlemen, that is a 2-hour lecture, hopefully in 10 minutes. I'm not checking the clock, but I'm hoping it's 10 minutes, in regards to income tax planning for freelancers. To me, of course, myself being a freelancer, it is a very enjoyable, noteworthy, and tax planning subject that should be done year-round, to be perfectly frank with you. If you have any questions on this video, or any tax question you have at all, feel free to give me a call. 347-575-5045. Be tax smart and have a good day.